A place in the news today. Overhead there was a rusty sign that read income tax. Behind there was a decaying frame house. Garbage was heaped behind it. On the street there was a wind-whipped handful of citizens waiting. It was the Albina district's chance to see Bobby Kennedy, appearing there to open his campaign headquarters in a converted storefront. Posters in the window told passers-by that "we have a campaign," a phrase reminiscent of Martin Luther King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Kennedy arrived half an hour late. By that time, the growing collection of people had been joined by 3 anti-pickets. One sign read, "RFK spells ratfink." A matronly lady kept muttering, "Isn't that the limit? Isn't that the limit?" When Bobby stepped from his new powder blue Ford station wagon, the traditional screaming rush toward the New Yorker took place. Bobby said a few words and then fought his way back to his car. The New York reporters piled into their bus and headed downtown behind him. All in all, the visit was extremely ordinary. Kennedy came down to Albina. The people there, mixed with a heavy dose of local Democratic wheels, proved that they liked Bobby. Bobby tried to show that he liked them in a total out-of-car into car time of 12 minutes. In a few minutes, the sidewalk was again gray and empty. The garbage was still waiting in back. The building was still slowly deteriorating. A little Albina resident toddled home wearing an outsized red, white, and blue plastic cap with a Kennedy sticker on it. Newsday today. This is Robert Reinerson reporting. We're passing right through the publisher's paper mill now. The strange smell of paper odor wafting through the train out past the Oregon City Falls. About 100 people stood in the Oregon City freight station to listen to Kennedy speak for about 15 minutes. The major point of his speech, brand new, was a plea to have a woman representative at the Paris Peace Conference. This is Robert Reinerson on board the Beaver State Special, now back to KLC. We're getting off on the platform now in Salem. The rock band entertaining the crowd. We're running down the platform. That sound is a generator supplying power for a TV station. Bright red, white, and blue balloons filled with helium floating up above the crowd. A hoopla, melee of American political campaign is all here in Salem, Oregon. We're heading back now to the rear of the train where Senator Kennedy has his speaking area. We'll be back with Senator Kennedy's speech. We're walking into the crowd now, Kennedy supporters, little children running around, TV cables strung. Security guards pushed right back against the side of the train.
To be here. This old town and community with a long, long history of which all of you are terribly proud. The oldest education.
The speech after the introduction is a repeat of what happened in Oregon City. That's the usual technique on most of these whistle-stop campaigns. The crowd hasn't heard the speech before, and the next crowd won't have heard this speech, so that they can use the same words over and over again. After all, the message is fairly clear, fairly simple. He's been taking raps at the Joy campaign. That's Hubert Humphrey's campaign philosophy. It looks like he's running against Hubert Humphrey and not against Eugene McCarthy. He's been pushing housing, law and order, which he reminds people he worked for as Attorney General, decentralizing control of the government. Let's hear Bobby again.
That are run by the people in the local community, bringing the private sector in an active way, changing the philosophy of government, and starting to move ahead, constructing housing and making jobs for our citizens. I think that's what makes much more sense than what we're doing at the present time, and that's what I expect to do if I'm elected President of the United States with your help. People, I'll return the presidency and the control of government not to some remote area 3,000 miles away, but to you yourselves. And I'm going to work with you, and I'm going to make an effort with you, and use the talent and the courage and the knowledge of the American people. That doesn't rest just in Washington. It rests in communities such as Salem, and it rests across the state of Oregon. This great, great state. It rests in here, and it rests around the rest of the United States. And that's where our strength is laid in the past, and where it lies now, and I intend to return government to the control of the people themselves. Bernard Shaw once wrote, some people see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were and say, why not? I think that's what guides the people of the state of Oregon, and that's what will guide me in this campaign over the period of the next 10 days, as I ask your support. Thank you very, very much.
The two warning whistles, the end of the speech, the sound of distant cheering coming up here to the head end of the train on the wind, the reporters rushing back to the press cars again, the Kennedy girls packing away their buttons, piling back on the train. The sun came out in Albany while Robert F. Kennedy spoke. They had press phones set up here. Most of the press rushed off to make their long-distance calls. Phones are kind of interesting. They don't have any dial. When you pick up the phone, you go right through to the long-distance operator with no waiting. This is a little service that the telephone company puts out as a public service thing for better publicity. That warning signal, they blow just 2 minutes before the train leaves, and that's the reason that everyone scrambles when the whistle finally blows. Once again, kids squirming up against the rear platform to try to get one last look at Bobby, one handshake. The railroad men coming up here now to pile on the train. There's the final signal. The conductor's throwing the steps up. Here we go. There's a railroad executive riding right on the engine, along with the engineer, fireman, and a brakeman riding in the cab. Also a railroad security man riding in the cab. There's quite a crowd up there. Stream of people moving away from the station, half of them running for their cars, the other half running along beside the train. And whoops, there's a Kennedy girl, almost didn't make it. There's another one running too. It's going to be hit or miss. We're slowing down so that the girls can catch up. They're still running to catch on the train. We may lose some Kennedy girls in Albany. Here we go, they got them. We're on our way. This is the reason all these officials are here. There are a lot of strange things that can happen. Along the track side, put down their tools to wave at the special as it goes through. The next stop on this special is Junction City.